Welcome to Flinders Uni. Some of you haven't been here previously and others are continuing on with their studies here at Flinders. As many of you may know, those who have been living in Adelaide or from Adelaide, we are on the lands of the Kaurna people, the traditional owners and custodians of the area, the Adelaide area, and the area upon which our Bedford Park campus is located. So I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. But I also have a welcome video that I'd like to show you. Let's hope this works. Unfortunately, I should have checked that earlier. Okay, we'll come back to that shortly. So first of all then, a plan for today. So we're going to run this session, first of all with introductions, as I mentioned, and then I'll take you through a lot of information, general information about the course before we break for a tour. And then the afternoon session will also be in this room and we'll begin that at 1 o'clock. So I have, for the tours, I have a couple of our second year students coming, who will take you in small groups around the main facilities, the main areas that you'll be working in during your time at Flinders. And then in the afternoon session, I'll be taking you through some information about our key learning strategy that we use here in the Master of Audiology, the inquiry-based learning process. And then you'll be involved in a practice case using this inquiry-based learning approach. And my colleague Eloise, who's here today, will take you through that process. So by way of introduction, this is our core audiology team. You can see their pictures here and you'll meet all of these people in the coming weeks. Unfortunately, a number of them couldn't be here today. So you can see on here our Professor of Audiology, Madhula Sharma. She's also our academic lead. Madhula has come to us from Macquarie University Audiology program 2 years ago now, and she has broad interests in hearing and neuroscience, including speech perception, listening disorders, evoked potentials, so measuring brain waves, and also auditory plasticity in children and adults. So you'll be meeting Madhula, will be coordinating one of your first year topics. We have Dr. Mariana Rice. You'll also soon be meeting her in your clinical skills practical sessions on Monday afternoons. So Mariana is a new addition to staff. She is part-time currently, and her interests, or she teaches the academic topics, but also is working as a clinical audiologist in our Flinders University Health to Go Allied Health Clinic. So you will at some point be also having placements in that Health to Go clinic. So her clinical focus is really on audiological rehabilitation, and she's particularly interested in supporting people with their journeys with hearing aids and other devices. So she is actually originally from Brazil, but has been in Australia now and completed her PhD in New South Wales at Macquarie University. Then we have Lisa Callahan. So Lisa is also an audiologist. In fact, all of our staff members here are audiologists and still do at least some clinical work. So we're not purely academics. Lisa is a Flinders graduate, in fact, quite a number of years ago, I think about 15 years ago. She is also part-time currently. She's completing her PhD in public health. But she is a very experienced inquiry-based learning EBL tutor, and many of you will be working with her in your EBL tutorials. She has a lot of experience also in paediatrics and working for the Women's and Children's Hearing Services here in South Australia. Okay, now briefly about myself. So I am also a clinical audiologist and spent the first many years actually of my career working as a clinical audiologist, both here and abroad in Europe. My undergraduate was in languages and psychology. Since I've been here at Flinders, I have worked in the clinical area, setting up the original Flinders University Hearing Clinic. And in more recent years, I've also completed my PhD. My interests are in analysing conversations and with a focus on non-verbal communication or the use of gesture in communication. But I've also been very involved in working in remote Aboriginal communities, assessing the ear health and hearing of young children in those communities. So I will hand over now to my colleagues.
Why me? You're the pick. Hi everyone, I'm Eloise Doherty. You'll be seeing me a lot in first year. So I'm one of the teaching specialist academics. After I did my audiology training, I went and worked for a company where we did everything. So pediatrics, adults, rehabilitative audiology and diagnostic audiology. So I got a really good grounding in all aspects of audiology from that and was there for several years. And then I went into a specialist pediatric role with Queensland Health while I completed my PhD. And now I'm at Flinders and have been for a number of years now. So my teaching areas, you'll see me for all of your EBL topics in semester 1 and 2 of first year. So I run those EBL topics. You'll also see me for foundation sciences in semester 1 and for pediatrics in semester 2. In second year, if you go on any of the remote outreach trips with Karen, you may see me on those as well. In terms of research interests, I actually came to audiology via music. So my research interests are about kind of the interplay between hearing loss, musicianship or listening to music and auditory processing. And I also have an interest in reflective and reflexive practices in audiology, which you will hear more about because it's actually a really important part of our curriculum and the graduate competencies you need to have when you finish your degrees. So that's me, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Thanks, Eloise. My name's Sarah. I've been with the team for a few years now. I'm actually a Flinders graduate as well. I started with my undergraduate of speech pathology and then moved and did my Masters of Audiology after that. My first job was working in the Northern Territory with a lot of remote areas with Indigenous people, which was really, really interesting. I've done a lot of pediatric audiology, so I moved to the women's and children's, did some work there. I've worked in private settings and then moved across to the uni after that. So I'm a clinical specialist. You'll see me one day a week at Health to Go if you're allocated on that particular day. I also teach the clinical topics in first years. So I'll be seeing you on Monday, where I'll be teaching you a little bit about otoscopy and how to do that. And I'm also the placement education coordinator. So I coordinate the placements across first and second year. So I look forward to meeting all of you over the next few weeks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah and Eloise. So we'll move on now to find out a little bit about each of you. So if you can tell us your preferred first name, where you're from, your undergraduate degree, and briefly, why have you decided to embark on this journey and study audiology? Okay. I will pass around the microphone so we're sure that everyone can hear, and those, if there may be a couple of people looking at the live stream online. So who would like to begin?
Hi everyone, my name is Amy. I grew up in Adelaide, South Australia, so I'm a local. My undergraduate degree was actually, I graduated 10 years ago in a tourism and event management business degree, which brings me to audiology. 16 months ago, my son was diagnosed with congenital hearing loss, and I kind of found myself on a journey that I never thought I would. Very interested in what is hearing and thought, why not study it and be a part of helping any future children with that same problem.
Hi, good morning. My name is Karen. I'm from New Orleans, USA. My parents are from El Salvador. And my undergraduate, I did a Bachelor of Health and Science, and I decided to study audiology because one of my nieces, since she born, she has like every loud noises. She's like hearing that, and everyone thinking that she was autism, but they found out that it was something in her ear, so she had a surgery. And I'm like, I would like to know more about what she has, and that's all.
Hi everyone, my name's Logan. I'm from the Fleurieu Peninsula, so Gore Beach, Middleton, surfy coastal, and I moved between Kangaroo Island as well, so it's a bit of a trek to get here. My undergraduate was a Bachelor of Health and Medical Science at the Uni of Adelaide, and then I did my Master's in Public Health. And then my daughter was a bit preemie, so she was in the neonatal ward for a while, and I watched them do the hearing tests, the paediatric hearing test. She failed the first one, but because she was a C-section, sometimes that's quite common in little babies. And I've always been very interested in the neuroscience of hearing. It was my favourite topic in my undergrad when they do the anatomy and physiology, and just saw that the course was available and wanted to pursue that. So.
Hello, my name is Zhao Wei, and I'm from China, so I'm an international student. And my undergraduate degree was Bachelor of Medical Science, and last year I finished my honors degree of that bachelor degree courses. So the reasons why I study audiology is because my honors courses was more on neuroscience side, and there are also some hearing problem with my family as well. So combining all of this together, that drive me to these courses, and I want to know more on how this is happening and how can I help them.
Hi, my name is Megan. I'm originally from Adelaide, but I've been working in Northern Territory for a while as well before coming back to study the Masters. My undergrad is a molecular biosciences and microbiology degree. I wanted to come back to study. I recently had my son, and I really liked seeing how they do newborn hearing tests because he missed it in the hospital, so we had to go to the clinic afterwards. And it was really cool to see that they were using nerves instead of like him responding, I guess, like how an adult would, which I thought was really cool. And I thought it would be really fun to be able to work with kids more. And yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Nathan, and I'm originally from the South Korea, and I have been in Adelaide for I think it's 14 years. And my undergraduate degree is the Chinese literature. And then after that, I studied at the Asian Studies in Flinders, 2005. And then I studied actually the fashion design. And then I worked for the fashion company for a long time. And I finished my job 2023, 2 years ago. And then my daughter actually, she's graduate from the Flinders and she is speech pathology. And so she recommended the study and audiology. And actually, when I was young, my father had the hearing loss and left ear. And then I didn't know that he had that problem. And then I was interested in the audiology from maybe as in my childhood. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Elsie. Originally from Ghana. I'm a Flinders graduate as well. My first degree was in education. Then I did my master's in special ed. Then I went up to teach in QAPD. So I started off as a special ed teacher, then primary teacher. And through the years teaching, I did notice most of my students, particularly the indigenous ones, had a lot of hearing problems. And I was curious as to how that affected their learning. So I'm mainly coming from the educational point of view. So that is something I was really interested in doing, maybe some research at some point to see what the connection really is. So yeah, I developed that interest and here I am.
Hello guys, my name is Yen. I'm from Malaysia. So I studied Bachelor of Science in Adelaide Uni. And then I found out why I studied audiology because my grandparents was having the hearing issue. And then I kind of like find out that is a correlation between the clear communication and the hearing ability. That's why I'm growing interest in to discuss that. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Asia. I'm originally from Pakistan. I did my health and medical sciences from the University of Adelaide. I decided to do audiology because I get ear infections and I do a lot of hearing tests. So I've just been really fascinated in what they do and I've decided to do it myself.
Hello, my name is Pratyusha. I'm originally from India, but been in Australia for 22 years. I did my bachelor's in physiotherapy and did my clinical master's here at the University of Queensland. And I've been working as a physio for 20 years. I thought it's been a long time. My daughter started uni this year, so I was looking for a change, but I wanted to be in allied health. I chose audiology.
Hi, my name is Simone. I'm from Adelaide originally. I studied 1,000 years ago, I feel like. Everyone looks really young. My undergraduate degree was in science, and I did a master's in environmental studies and looked at bioaccumulative potential of polychlorinated biphenyls in dolphins, which has nothing to do with audiology. And then I decided to do education, and I've been head of science and teaching biology for a very long time. And then I had a bizarre experience. I had COVID and influenza together, which is an unfortunate combination. And when I recovered, I had a pulsatile tinnitus. And my dad passed away from a catastrophic vertebral dissection, and so I was a bit concerned. So I went to the ear, nose and throat, and they said, let's get a CAT scan. So I went and did that, and I find it bizarre that you can live for 50 years and not know that you just are built different. So I don't have a carotid artery, and so when they did the hearing test, I could hear much further than most people of my age because I don't have blood vessels in the way of my hearing. And I just found it really, really fascinating. And I'm sort of, if I could only teach and didn't have to do all the other things, it's very straining. So I've decided that I will follow this new interest. So that's why I'm here.
Hello everyone, my name is Hayley. So I'm originally from Taiwan, but I've been living in LA for about 7 years. I studied Bachelor of Nursing a few years back, and I've been working as a nurse for about 4 years now. And the reason why I choose audiology is because I find being a nurse can be a bit tiring. So I would like to try something new and more specialized, I guess. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ariana and I graduated here at Flinders University with a Bachelor of Speech Pathology. And as a new grad last year, when I was working in the aged care area, I realized a lot of the geriatric population require like hearing aids, or there's some sort of issue within the hearing area. And I think that's a vital part for conducting therapy and doing assessments. And sometimes it was just really hard to even start to do an assessment because they weren't able to hear instructions. And I think so that's what has led me to audiology.
Hi everyone, my name is Farnaz. I'm from Iran. In my country, I just studied the plant pathology. Plant pathology is about diseases and pests about plants. But now, when I move here, I decided to study audiology because I really interested in. That's it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Fredina John and I'm from India, and I have already completed my bachelor's in audiology and speech language pathology, and I have worked in Kerala as an audiologist for a year. So I really thought of doing my further studies in audiology masters here. That's why. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Alfonsa. I'm originally from India but living in Adelaide for 11 years. My bachelor's degree is in dentistry. So I work as a dental assistant in Adelaide, University of Adelaide for past 8 years. So I always wanted something more satisfying, more into like head and neck, more into like science that combines with technical sort of thing. And I had a friend that recently passed out at did the same dentistry and passed out recently, got good reviews from her. So I thought, why not try audiology? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tian Shu and I'm from China, and it's my first time here. My undergraduate degree was actually product design, but when I work finished my internship at a language center, I find out how communication and hearing is important for students, and I want to work directly with people, so I choose audiology. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. I was born in China, but I have been living in Adelaide for more than 10 years now. I recently completed a degree of Bachelor of Psychology, also in Flinders. I'm very interested in psychology. And the reason why I choose to further study audiology is that I have been working as a disability support worker for 4 years now, and I like my job, but I also like some career advancement. Also, some of my family members also got hearing issues and some like tinnitus or hearing loss. I think I will be very interested to find out the answers for their problems. And thank you, everyone.
Hi, my name is Jessie. I'm from Taiwan, and my undergraduate degree was Bachelor of Chemical Engineering. After I graduated, I used to be home tutor teaching chemistry and physics, and I found that I encountered some difficulty teaching special kids. So apparently hearing loss is a big issue in teaching and children growing process. So that's why I'm studying audiology now. Yeah. And this is my boyfriend, so I'll just skip him.
Hello everyone, my name is Xing Yi and I'm from China. I did my bachelor degree in China of food science. And the reason why I study audiology is that when I finished reading some research and do some other readings, I found my interest is in healthcare and I want to find a job related to healthcare. So I try audiology.
Hello, my name is Jared. I'm originally from Singapore. My previous degree was in banking and biological engineering. I would like to study audiology because I've got relatives with profound hearing loss, and I've seen firsthand how audiologists have helped him with cochlear implants, and that has helped them regain their hearing to quite a large extent. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Mark. I was born in England, but we moved here as a family in like 2009, so I consider myself a local as well. I studied my undergrad in health and medical science, also at the Adelaide University. I did my placement in a lab. It was like a 9-to-5 job, and it sucked. So I figured out that I did not want to pursue research in any way whatsoever. I wanted hands-on experience. And when I looked at all the allied health, because I knew I wanted to work in health, audiology just interested me the most. So yeah, I'm here now.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I was born in Chicago, but I basically grew up here. My undergraduate degree was in medical science. And why I wanted to study audiology was basically because I also did placement and it wasn't quite my thing. I think I just decided I didn't want to pursue research specifically. And I wanted to try allied health, and my mum has a background in special education. And I am, and some people in my family, are neurodivergent, so not exactly quite the same thing, but I wanted to be able to help people with disabilities.
Hello everyone, my name is Pippin. I came from China. I graduated from law school last year. I decided to transfer my degree into audiology because I found myself not interested in those law cases, and I'm interested in music, so I'm really looking forward to learning how our body works to hear those music and make sound. So I want to help people who suffer from hearing loss to listen to music and live a more convenient life in the future. That's it.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear so many different stories and backgrounds, and this is really the beauty of the Master of Audiology, that we do accept people from so many or from any background, and then you all come together, particularly through this EBL process, where you can bring some of that knowledge, as well as developing new knowledge. You bring that knowledge to the EBL and that experience and life experience. Many of you this year have life experience, family experience with hearing loss. So we often have perhaps one or two, but this year I think we have many more of you who have had that direct experience. So that's fantastic. So now we'll just have a short break, and then we'll continue with the general information session. So feel free to go out for a moment, I think you would have seen where the ladies and men's rooms are, right at the end of the corridor, just next to Lecture Theatre 1. So about 5 or so minute break, and then we'll recommence.
Yakandalia, Nichalia. Good morning to each and every one of you behind the lens today. My name is Cliffy Wilson, but I also go by Tunkle and Manicha, which are both my traditional Ghana names down here in the city of Adelaide. So Tunkle is my totem, and my totem is the king brown snake, one of the most dangerous animals in the world. Also, Manicha is just my birth order name, which translates to the fourth born and male of my family. I'm a proud Ghana man from here in the city of Adelaide, but also a proud Dadajeti man from back on the lower lakes of the Coorong and the Fleurieu Peninsula. My family ties extend out to the Narungga people on the York Peninsula, also to the Ngurri people on the Flinders Ranges, and last but not least, the Aranda people in the Northern Territory of Alice Springs. I'm here this morning at Flinders University in Bedford Park, also known as Yungarindi Imperilla, which translates to meeting place, which is located on the Ghana lands. And on behalf of the Ghana people, I would like to welcome those who are situated here in Flinders Uni at Bedford Park on Ghana lands, but also welcome those across South Australia who are located on other Aboriginal lands. May we pay respects to the traditional custodians of those regions and also pay respects to their cultural and spiritual beliefs, as it still is important to the living Aboriginal people today. Also, we do have campuses located in Northern Territory, so I'd like to pay respects to the traditional owners of those regions. And to the staff and students, may we take care of these campuses and the surrounding communities of these areas like the Aboriginal people have for many thousands of years. But also, may we pay respects to the cultural and spiritual beliefs of the Aboriginal peoples across the country and recognise that their connection to the land, the sky and the waterways that surround and connect us are still as strong, still as important, but also still as important to the living Aboriginal people today. I would like to finish off by saying Nichalia and Nakara. Nichalia means thank you in the Ghana language, and Nichalia means we'll see you again when our paths meet. To all students, I would like to wish you all the best for the remainder of the year and for your future studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cliffy, for offering us a welcome to country and also the acknowledgement of all the traditional owners on which our universities are located.
So welcome to all our new students. I hope you have an amazing first semester, and remember, have fun.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more take you through the general information about the course. So to begin, audiology as a discipline. We don't tend to talk about departments any longer. Audiology as a discipline sits within the College of Nursing and Health Sciences here at Flinders. So we tend to refer to the college as the college. And it's one now of 5. There were originally 6, but one college has been amalgamated into another most recently. The main office of our college is actually at the Sturt campus. So most of the disciplines, except for audiology and speech pathology, which are both co-located here, all of the other disciplines have their offices and have a lot of their teaching within the Sturt campus. So a lot of the administration is conducted from there, and when you're contacting, we'll give you contact information. When you're needing to contact the college office, then you typically will do that by email. Okay. Now, so within our college, we have the Vice President and Executive Dean is the title given to the head of the college. So again, I'll just play you a welcome video that I've been provided. By her. There we go.
Vice President and Executive Dean of Nursing and Health Sciences at Flinders University. I want to give you a very warm welcome to our university and also congratulate you in relation to your choice. We are known for our excellence in education, our innovative research, and advancing practice. You are also joining us at a very exciting time. We have just launched our 10-year strategy, Agenda 2035, where we make a commitment to making a positive difference to 10 million people's lives. And as our students and graduates, you will make a significant contribution towards that. You have also shown wisdom in relation to choosing to study one of our programs in health, disability, or community inclusion. The world's population is growing rapidly. Our needs are becoming more complex and our expectations are changing. There are shortfalls in the workforce now and projected into the future. So you will be highly sought after as our graduates and future employees into practice or as future educators, future researchers, and future leaders. And those opportunities will not just present themselves here in South Australia, but also across the nation and globally. So the next 3 to 4 years will be a significant period of growth for you, not just professionally, but also personally. So please do take every opportunity that we give you in relation to what's within our curricula, but also extra to our curricula. I hope you enjoy Orientation Week, have fun, build relationships with your peers, other students, and also our staff. And I hope to meet every single one of you at some point during your journey here with us at Flinders University. The Vice President.
Okay, so our Vice President and Executive Dean, Tracy, is also located within the Sturt campus. So our academic offices here for audiology as well as speech pathology are up on level 7 of this building, right down the far end, the northern end. So we are Flinders University, but we are within the building that is known as Flinders Medical Centre. So Flinders Medical Centre is the hospital here. And we have an area, Flinders University, within the hospital. Some of our facilities are actually used by both the Flinders Medical Centre Audiology Department, as well as the area that we use for particularly for the clinical work and the clinical skills practicals. And we work quite closely with the Flinders Medical Centre audiology staff, and you will, a little later this year, also be involved with placements within the FMC, particularly in terms of paediatrics and some of the vestibular testing, the balance testing. So their offices and on level 6 of the building, and again you'll be shown those probably in the tours later today. They have their offices and some of their clinical activity of both speech pathology and audiology and FMC take place on level 6, but the audiology work also is undertaken on level 5. This is the level we're on here now. In the audiology area, which is further to the south. So as I mentioned before, a lot of your classes are within FMC, but also what we call the Health Sciences Lecture Theatre Complex and the Health Sciences Building, which are the two buildings closest here once you go through the tunnel. Those of you that may have parked in Car Park 1, the building's above Car Park 1. And further on is the main campus of the university. So there are facilities, etc., shops and food outlets in that area as well. We also do, and this would be more in semester 2, use a computer laboratory on the Sturt campus. So you'd be provided with information and directions when the time comes. So we have, yes, here on level 5, our audiology booths. So we do have rooms, teaching rooms, but also soundproof booths that are used for the audiological testing and practicals, etc. There is a medical library, so we have a central library up the hill on the main campus, but here in the medical centre there's known as the medical library. So a lot of the resources that you need in terms of physical resources are available here in the medical centre, in the medical library. Many resources now these days, those of you who have studied more recently will know many things are now online, but I would still encourage you to pay a visit now and then to the medical library, and also don't just look at the bookshelves, look up and see what you can see there. You'll see some amazing Aboriginal art that is on loan to the library from my former colleagues here at Flinders, who I've travelled to the Aboriginal lands in far north South Australia many times across the years. Okay. So I mentioned briefly earlier inquiry-based learning. This was formerly known as problem-based learning, so PBL. So you may hear us slip up on occasion and call it PBL instead of EBL. But we've changed the name in the last couple of years to better reflect the process and what we're trying to achieve, rather than focusing on the idea of a problem. So this is very much self-driven, student-driven learning. So we're not there to fill your minds with information in a didactic way, which some of you may be more used to, but it recognises that knowledge and the experiences that you each as individuals bring to the EBL, and very much an emphasis on working as a team, working as a group, to work through real life cases and scenarios. So it's the idea of adult learning, self-driven learning, that also feeds into the idea of lifelong learning, that we're always learning. You as audiology students here will graduate as graduate audiologists, but the learning doesn't stop then. There's a constant process throughout a career in health or in any area of continuing to learn and evolve your knowledge. So this afternoon and Friday afternoon, you will be practicing this form of learning, as I mentioned earlier. And we'll talk more about that in the session immediately after lunch as well, how that process works. So initially as well, you'll be in this room, and you'll be in groups, but you'll all be together so that Eloise, my colleague, will guide you through the process. So we found in past years, we began doing it this way for the initial 4 weeks of the semester last year for the first time, because we did find going straight into small groups, people found it, often people who hadn't experienced this type of learning found it quite difficult and challenging to understand how it works. So we're guiding you a little more into the way the process works. But this idea of independent learning is throughout the course, so not just in the EBL. So it requires your engagement, your curiosity, your to investigate, to research, to find knowledge and bring knowledge to your colleagues within the course. Okay, now briefly about the course outline. Now I would say a large number of you are enrolled full-time, but we also, for the first time last year, we created a part-time pathway. And I've had discussions with a number of you, and there are about 4 of you now who have chosen to take the part-time pathway. So this means those that are studying part-time will be in their first semester doing these top 2 topics. So you won't see them in the clinical topic or the third one listed here. So EBL 1, inquiry-based learning 1, Eloise is the topic coordinator for that topic, and she is also a tutor in the topic. We also have, and I should have mentioned earlier when introducing the staff, we have not only our group of 5 staff, key staff, we also do have quite a number of casual staff who assist us. We also have currently, until later this year, we have Fauve, who is a postdoc, has a postdoc position with Medoula, a professor of audiology, and she is French-Canadian. So she's working in terms of quite a lot of research in the laboratory that we have at Tonsley, the Tonsley campus. So Medoula Sharma, our professor, has involvement at Tonsley for conducting the electrophysiological testing, which is part of her research. So you may well come across Fauve probably maybe later this semester or early or in the next semester in one of the foundation science topics. So that first foundation science topic, and a lot of you here do have science background, so you'll be well placed to take part in that topic and also perhaps assist those other members who have less of a science background. So this is also Eloise's topic. You will find for most of our topics you have online preparation on the Flow site. Have many of you already logged in to the Flow site? Those that are familiar with Flinders will be more familiar with that, but we'll also be using that this afternoon. So you will have typically some preparation to do for most of the topics. And then your in-class activity will be workshop style, where you're actually using the knowledge from the preparation and applying that in various activities. Some of the activities will be group activities, and some of the assessments that you do will be done in small groups, and other assessments will be more individual. So if you are doing full-time, you will have the evidence-based practice and research methods topic with Medulla. And again, this includes online preparation and workshops. So Medulla is currently away overseas, but we'll be back next week for the initial or the commencement of that topic. So the clinical skills, clinical audiological skills, as Sarah mentioned, she's the topic coordinator for that topic. So you will begin with prac classes next week on Monday, and I believe there will be some preparation for that class as well. So these are run on Monday afternoons. On Friday, you will have, you won't have clinical placements immediately, and those that are doing the part-time pathway will not have this topic, so their clinical placements won't commence until the following year. Those of you who are doing placements, they won't begin until after the semester break. So there's quite a lot of you, and I know some of you have already begun this process of the compliance, doing the various vaccinations and other activities that need to be ticked off and uploaded onto in place. But you will also have a session on this on Friday. So we have someone from the WIL team who oversee the compliance and the placement scheduling. Will come and talk to you on Friday about that process. So you have a number of weeks when you won't have any placements, when you will have the time to work through those compliance requirements so that you're ready for placement. So semester 2, I've just listed the topics there. So obviously there'll be more information in due course when semester 2 begins. And in terms of the assessments and the requirements of each of the topics, your topic coordinators will talk to you more about those next week. You will be able to see by next week, if not already, you'll see on Flow again. You'll see the details of the various assessments for each of those topics. Okay, as I've already mentioned, FLOW stands for Flinders Learning Online, and this is really an important system that you need to be able to access. And if you haven't done so already, you log on to this system from your Okta using your FAN and your password. So we'll be having a look at that as well this afternoon, because your EBL materials will also be available through Flow, and they'll be on a time release depending on the start time of your various tutorials. I've also written there assignments typically, almost exclusively, are these days submitted online. But Flow as well has a wealth of other information, so explore that as well to see what you can find. There are links to various study guides and study assistants, as well as to various other services and information on the website are linked in through Flow. In terms of the academic year, in first year we do follow the university dates. So the teaching periods are interspersed with the breaks. There are examination and supplementary examination periods, which are often used for assessments at the end of the semester, and the supplementary period is typically, well, in first semester, it is the week immediately before the beginning of the second semester. The variations in the Master of Audiology, just to make a note of now, is that second year will officially begin in the O week. So our second year students have already commenced their EBL topic for this semester. They commenced on Monday. And also in second year, there are slight differences because you will have block placements. So you may not necessarily have a break in the official university mid-semester break. So, yeah, I suggest you always check with myself around if you're planning to travel, to go away, perhaps just touch base with me so that we make sure that you're going at a appropriate time and you're not going to miss essential activities or supplementary periods if required. Okay, I did give you a broad outline of the semester when I sent the email to you some time ago. We will be making a overall timetable available to you in the general flow site, but also you'll find a lot of your topics will have a schedule specifically for that topic, which will show you the days, the times, the rooms typically, and in some instances the topic. Yes, Hannah.
So just to clarify, there are 2 EBL sessions per week, correct?
Yes, we'll talk more about how that's structured, but yes. Mm-hmm. So participation and active contribution to these EBL sessions is a requirement, and we are assessing this as well. So we're assessing your ability to work with the group and the ability to generate knowledge within the group. And there is a process of peer review as well, so that you're assisting one another in terms of your participation as well. So I've already mentioned pre-recorded content. We do recommend, though, I have heard people comment, oh, well, perhaps I don't need to go to the workshop if I can watch the material online. But we do highly recommend attendance at all the face-to-face sessions. Of course, on occasion, illness may prevent you, but typically now it's not a requirement that these workshop sessions are recorded at all. They're very much more you actively engaging with the material in order to consolidate your learning and that you may have obtained through looking at the recordings. And, of course, punctuality is expected. Yes, Hannah. That's okay.
I was just wondering, how exactly is our contribution assessed in the EBL session?
Well, you'll find out more about that in due course. We won't go into that now, okay? Okay, just briefly, of course, COVID-19 restrictions have been removed, but if you're really unwell, we still recommend that you stay away, or you may choose to wear a mask if you're feeling unwell, whether or not. Often people will still use COVID testing as a precaution, but whether or not you use that, using a mask is often a good option. And of course, we expect professional behaviour in relation to absences. In EBL, that means being accountable to your group, making sure that you are catching up as appropriate, making sure that you're notifying people, your group and or your tutor of your absence. We are a small cohort, so we do notice when people are not attending. No, that's fine.
Are we assigned the same group every time, each EBL, or do we ever swap groups?
Yes, so you'll be assigned groups that will be for a period of at least the term, and then in the various EBL topics there will be changes to the groups. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the MAUD, as I've mentioned to quite a number of you already in our conversations in my email, that it is a challenging course. We want you to succeed and we want you to engage fully in the course. You are on the road to becoming professionals. So we know that times are not easy in terms of the economy, financially at the moment. So we understand that many of you need to do a certain amount of work as well. But consider carefully how much you can manage. And there's still the option, if you're finding that full-time study together with work and other commitments is too much for you, then come and talk to me about the possibility of moving to part-time. So all the first year topics, so we do this is a new course structure that we started essentially last year with the first year group, and we're currently rolling out the slightly different structure for the current second years. So you're the second group to go through with this modified course. So there are a number of prerequisite topics for you to proceed. But also, and this has always been the case, all the first year topics, full-time first year topics, must be successfully completed before you proceed to any second year topics. Okay, so we do have many different types of assessments, so it's not purely writing essays, and the information is on Flow, and the topic coordinators will go over this with you next week as well. In terms of extensions, there's a tool on Flow that you can use in order to request an extension, which will be considered, but all extension requests must be submitted before the due date. So we do have, just briefly about our new e-portfolio that we're calling the Passport to Clinical Competency. So this is something that you will be doing for the first time. And what it is a collection of evidence from both your clinical and your professional development throughout the course that you'll collate in an e-portfolio using a tool called OneNote. So we will also be using OneNote for your EBL, so you'll become familiar with this quite quickly. So by the end of the program, over the 2 or the 4 years part-time, your portfolio needs to demonstrate that you've achieved the Audiology Australia graduate competencies. So we'll also tell you more about these in coming weeks. So the evidence in that e-portfolio will reflect or enables you to reflect on the learning that you've obtained. And it supports those links between what you learn in theory and what you learn in your clinical practice. Okay. And this is something that you can use to showcase what you've done and how you've developed and your ability to engage with lifelong learning. So each of your flow sites will give you some information and guidance on what needs to be added and how it needs to be added to your e-portfolio. In the first instance, you can start off looking at your biography, your CV, which will be something you'll develop throughout the course, and that's something you'll use in order to look for internship opportunities on graduation. So there'll be templates according to the domains of the competencies in template form, which will guide you around the structure of this e-portfolio. So we don't have any actual textbooks as such. If you want to purchase a textbook, you're welcome to do so. Of course, they are very expensive, but you will find that in the library, many books now are available as e-books for loan, or even some chapters for individual download. But we encourage you in using resources, and you will be doing a lot of researching, looking for information, particularly around your EBL. And you'll receive some more guidance on this, but you need to be discriminating in your use of these resources. Something that just turns up on Google is not necessarily always the most reliable source of an accurate source of information. Academic integrity is also an important topic. And you will be having a session with Eloise on Friday on this very topic. Essentially, academic integrity means that you're committing to the principles of honesty, respect, trust, and fairness. So we are expecting that you're not using tools that are not approved, and this includes, of course, in recent years, artificial intelligence has provided us with many tools, and these tools can be of use, but in terms of university study, we make as clear as possible what is appropriate use for a particular assignment and what is not appropriate use. So this will be made clearer to you on Friday as well and throughout the course. So the important thing is always, if you're unsure about what you can use, what you shouldn't use to assist with your studies, that you do ask the staff. And there is a wealth of information around university policy and guides around the use of various tools available on the web. And there are some new developments using AI that are approved by the university. Study Buddy, for example, and there's a feedback application that uses AI but provides you with feedback rather than creating work for you. So it's giving you guidance without infringing what we'd consider to be breach of academic integrity. So we ask you to ensure that your details on the student system are up to date, so that if we need to get in touch with you urgently, for example, we make sure that we have the correct details. We suggest, and I think Susan Main, who's been in touch with you about clinical, has suggested as well that you create yourselves an email signature on your Flinders email. We are only permitted to use your Flinders email, so avoid sending us emails from your private email. Use your Flinders email and create a signature that says that you're a Master of Audiology student, maybe Year 1 student, your name, your ID as well. Mostly, I think people now will receive emails on their mobile devices, on their phones, but we do encourage you to regularly check your email for information. You'll also get announcements through Flow from your topic coordinators. And sometimes and you should get a notification, I think, on your email. Sometimes I've noticed that if you have an other folder, those announcements might go into the other folder. So just be aware of checking both folders if you have them. If you want to meet with a staff member, whether it's a topic coordinator or whether it's myself as course coordinator, then it's best to email us initially first and organise a time. Okay, this is some of the orientation guidance in terms of finding your way at Flinders. There's quite a lot of information about support services, etc., and videos that you can watch. This particular slide I've been given is showing you the services, but when they're available at STIRT. But these services are also available in the hub on the main campus. We also have our wellbeing or success and wellbeing advisor who does spend some time here at Flinders Medical Centre on a Wednesday, and she's actually coming to talk to you briefly today at 1 o'clock after the lunch break. Okay, and there's a QR code where you can use to access the directory of the range of services. Now, we'll play you this short video. I still think we have a little bit of time. So I just need to find a playable version of that. Oops. Here we go.
Welcome to Flinders University. This is your guide to getting started, staying connected and finding support. Let's go. First things first, Wi-Fi. Connect to the Edge Your Own Wi-Fi using your student fan and Flinders password. For more information, head to the Wi-Fi page on our Flinders website. Flow, or Flinders Learning Online, is the main platform that the university uses. It runs off of a platform called Canvas, so you may hear people call it by that name too.
Need help with Flow? Head into the Orientation Events Planner page and register for the Intro to Flow session. If you need help to enroll and register, Flinders has plenty of support available to make the process smooth and stress-free. You can submit a request via Ask Flinders, or you can visit Flinders Connect in person for personalised assistance, or watch the Student System how-to guides on YouTube for quick visual guides. You also need to order your student ID card. This can be done via the Order My ID Card app on your Okta dashboard, or just visit Flinders Connect on Level 1 at Bedford Park.
You can pick it up from Flinders Connect or even get it posted. Just make sure your address is up to date, and you can even choose your preferred name.
Flinders Connect is your one-stop support hub for all things student life, helping with enrollment, fees, exams, graduations, ID cards, scholarships, and general inquiries.
Flinders also offer a huge variety of scholarships, which you can find on our Flinders Scholarships page. Getting to Flinders? No problem.
Take the train straight to Flinders Station or hop on a bus with heaps of routes, including all loop buses which keep us connected, so you're never more than a bus ride away.
If you're driving onto campus, don't panic, there's plenty of room to park on campus. Just make sure you download Cello Park or grab a V permit to avoid racking up those fines we all love.
Feeling unsafe? Security is here for you 24/7. Just ring 8201-2880 or find hotline phones around campus. If you experience harassment or unacceptable behavior, you can always make a confidential report. It doesn't start a complaint, it starts support. You can find the library at level 2 at Bedford Park. Chat with librarians, access photos, videos, textbooks, journals, and more.
Need academic support? Visit the Learning Lounge. The Student Learning Support Service is here to help with referencing, academic writing, and more, online or in person. Better You connects you with wellbeing resources, physical, mental, social, and spiritual. Check it out to look after you.
You can see a doctor, counsellor, or disability advisor through health counselling and disability services available on Level 3 of the Student Centre building by phone or online appointments. These appointments can be bulk billed or covered via an overseas health card. Contact them on 08 8201 2118 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays.
Oasis is your wellbeing space. There's free tea and coffee, prayer rooms and social events, markets and wellbeing programs.
Are you an international student? Come over to the International Student Services where you're supported through advice, volunteering, social events, meet and greets, and much more.
Young Corinthi supports Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students with tutoring, study spaces, financial support and community.
If you're a student with disability or mental health conditions, visit the University Specialist Employment Partnership Team. The USEP team offers specialised on-campus employment help in partnership with the Community Bridging Services.
Ready to kickstart your career? Careers Hub is here to help you build resumes, networking, business ideas, and placements to jumpstart your career.
More details on all the services discussed in this video are available on the link above.
And just remember, university is more than just classes. It's about finding your path, building your future, and accessing support.
And don't forget, having fun along the way. We're super excited to have you here.
Welcome to Flinders.
Okay, so just a few final things. There are lockers available. I'm actually not sure if this is still the current fee. So you'll see in the level 5 area, clinical area, there are lockers available there. So if you want to have a locker so you can store some of your material during the day in the locker, you're welcome to do so. Student representatives. We have student representatives in each year, so we'll be asking you in the not too distant future who would like or who would be interested in being a student representative for your cohort. We have our two second-year student representatives actually here today who are going to show you around on the tours. So you can ask them about the role if you're interested. You also are eligible to join Audiology Australia, which is our peak professional body, and I would encourage you to do so. There's a student membership category, so you can apply through the website of Audiology Australia. So also on this website there are useful learning resources, and it's much easier when you complete or when you're completing your degree to transition from your student membership to full membership. There are also, in terms of clinical block placements, there may be some additional funding available if you're a student member. And next year will also be the national conference year, so you're also then eligible to apply for a scholarship for that conference.
I was just wondering if there's a fee for being a Audiology Australia.
There is a fee for a student member, but it's very low compared to what you would pay as a full member. Yeah. They will on occasion have events as well for student members. So, very much worthwhile joining soon. Okay, just a couple of phone numbers in terms of security. Even though we're in a hospital, of course, if there is an emergency, you may need to dial 000 and inform security as well, so they can direct the services to the appropriate area. So on Friday, just a reminder, we will have information about placements from Sarah, and the Will team coordinator will come over from Sturt to talk to you. And then an academic integrity information session will also be in this room on Friday for the entire sessions, including the afternoon session. We also, in relation to your new e-portfolio, we are also going to do a new activity, so you'll be able to create a short form video in your groups or in groups that you'll be able to already add to your e-portfolio. So we'll give you more information about that on Friday. Also, there is a Flinders University Speech Pathology and Audiology Student Association, which you may be aware of. So we do encourage you, and they're quite keen to hear from audiology students to become involved, and I'm expecting someone from the committee to come and talk to you on Friday about the activities that they organise. So we have had an Master of Audiology student as president of FUSPA at one stage, and I think a couple of years ago we had the treasurer was one of our Master of Audiology students. So encourage you to be involved in that. And there is also a Flinders University Rural Health Society. I haven't heard from them about doing a talk, but I think there's some information that I'll post on Flow through announcements about their activities as well. I think they're having a day of activities coming up soon down at the Sturt campus. Okay, just some key dates for you to look at. So this information is also available on the web page if you need to check on the specific dates. These are top tips that have been suggested for you. So the various socials, there is a Flinders University Student Association as well. Importantly, and I will stress this as well, don't be afraid ever to ask for help. We'd much rather you come and talk, and we can look at what sort of help you might require and send you in the right direction. This could be your topic coordinator, it could be me as course coordinator, it could also be Melissa Suckley, who'll be talking to you at 1:00, the Success and Wellbeing Advisor, who you can refer yourselves to directly if you wish. So I mentioned course representation. So we'll be getting in touch with you again about a couple of 2 or 3 of you being course reps. Okay, so now we're actually in the official O week, so there are quite a lot of activities going on around campus. So when you're not engaged in our sessions, you might like to explore and see what's going on. So here's just a list of some of those activities. And then next week is called Connect Week, so there are still ongoing activities which you may have some time for, particularly perhaps on the Wednesday and Thursday when you don't have classes. So I've also been asked to give you this QR code, which is a feedback questionnaire, and you can go into the prize draw for a $250 voucher. So we'll put up these slides as well separately on the Flow site. So if you don't get the QR code now, you can do that later. So that brings me to the end of this session. Are there any questions before we have our second years waiting to meet you and to, do you want to come down? And take you on some short tours. Does anyone have any pressing questions? Yes. Yes, you will be. A number of those, you will be shown the classroom. So you're not just in this room. Various other rooms around this building and up the hill in the buildings immediately above us here. Yeah. Okay. So it may take you a while to find your way around, but that's to be understood. So I'll just briefly introduce you. Sorry, I've got a list. Or where you want to go. So I suggest you all go slightly different routes so you're not all following the same route. I've got a list of places here. There you go. Would you like to introduce yourselves, or shall I introduce you? Stop this. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you found the tours helpful, not too confusing, but yeah, you'll get to know the place fairly quickly, I think. So before we start the EBL introductory session, I'd like to introduce Melissa Suckley, who's going to talk to you about the role of the Success and Wellbeing Advisors here at Flinders. Thanks, Melissa.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was about to say good morning. Oh my gosh, I'm losing track of the days. As Karen said, my name is Mel and I'm Student Success and Wellbeing Advisor for the College of Nursing and Health Sciences and the College of Medicine and Public Health. My role is to support students who are stuck, overwhelmed, stressed out, unsure, and connect them with information and other people and services. I've had the privilege of having a number of conversations with students over the last couple of years. And so I hope you'll indulge me. I'm going to go through my top 5 tips for success at Flinders based on those conversations. I understand you're all master's students, so you've all at least done an undergraduate degree like recently or at some point in your lives. So some of this you might go, I know all this. What is this woman talking about? And that's okay. How many of you are brand new to Flinders? A bunch of you, welcome. So take what you will from my tips. If they're not of use to you, then please feel free to have a little meditation while I'm chatting away. So tip number 1 is to get clear on what's expected and to ask early. So, and what I mean by that is that you can often find yourself feeling overwhelmed or maybe a bit pulled in many directions, if you're not sure what your week is asking of you, you're not sure what a rubric is asking of you, not sure what an assignment is asking, not sure what your online materials are asking for you. So I would encourage you, if you're not sure, to ask questions early and seek clarification. It will reduce your stress and it will also help with your learning. And if you're having to ask questions today, then by all means ask questions today. If it's next week or the week after where you start to have those questions, please understand that the teachers here are very approachable. Sometimes they may not look it, but they are very approachable and very flexible and supportive of you. Tip number 2 is to plan your study time and protect it. How many of you are also going to be working while studying? Yeah? I've done a full-time job while doing an online master's degree, and in hindsight, I probably should have done it quite differently. So a weekly rhythm will help you stay on top of your learning. And by that, I mean schedule, not just your class time, but schedule 3 to 4 study periods a week if you can, depending on how many topics you're doing. A full-time load for us is about a 40-hour week. So if you're doing a full-time load, you should be doing, including class time, about 40 hours of study to keep up with everything. So yeah. Plan it, protect it. Don't give it away to something that is a lower priority than your studies. And for those of you who might have family commitments or sporting commitments or cultural commitments, they are just as important as your study. But don't negotiate them away for the things that maybe are not as important. Tip number 3 is to start tasks before you feel ready. Starting is often the hardest part, and so open the assignment, create a document, write a sentence, build momentum toward getting your assignment done. I'm sure many of you have been in the position like me of sitting in front of a laptop at 11 o'clock at night and wishing you'd started this a couple of weeks earlier. Protect your future self. Start before you feel ready. Number 4 is to stay connected and not to study alone. So you have the advantage of being a really nice small group of people, and you can get to know each other really well, and you can also use each other's brains. More brains, more learning, more understanding. So lean on each other, form study groups, post in discussion groups, reach out to your teachers when things get tough, come to classes. Don't do it alone. You don't have to do it alone, and we wouldn't expect you to do it alone. And my last tip is to look after your well-being. So sleep, movement, food and breaks is just as important, and self-kindness is just as important as getting your studies done. And in fact, they will make your learning easier. So scheduling in those things, making sure that you're getting the sleep and the food that you need so your brain can work well, and being kind to yourself and doing things that make you happy are just as important as getting good grades and getting your assignments in. So they're my top tips. I don't know if they've been useful. I hope maybe 1 or 2 might get you thinking about how to approach your classes if they start next week. In terms of how I can support you, apologies for the layout there with the advisors going weird. I don't know why it's doing that. My role at the uni is, as I said, to connect you with services or information or people. So if at any point, if you feel overwhelmed or stuck or stressed out, you are very welcome to connect with me and book an appointment. We'll have a chat about what might be going on for you, and then I'll make maybe some recommendations for actions you can do or resources you can access, or we might have a conversation and I might refer you on to some other services. As a bit of an example, if you've moved from overseas and maybe a family member back home becomes really ill and you can't go home to see them and you're really worried about it and it starts to impact on your studies, that might be an occasion where you come and have a conversation with me. And maybe I'll refer you to counselling or possibly back to your teachers to see if you can get some extensions while you work out all your emotions, and is there something that we can do to help you reconnect with family so that you're understanding what's going on back home. If you're at all eligible for an access plan, so if you have a disability, a health condition, a mental health condition, if you're neurodiverse, if you're the carer of anyone with any of those things, you can get what we call an access plan through Disability Services. And so if you feel like you need some support to go through that process, you can come and have a chat with me, or you can go directly to Disability Services, but that's also something that I can assist with. So making sure that you have all of the supports around you that you might need. You can book with me using that QR code, or you can go to our website You can book a 30-minute appointment with me. I'm here in the Flinders Medical Centre every Wednesday. I'm in the Student Hub Mondays and Thursdays, and I don't think this cohort are ever over at Sturt. Maybe. I'm at Sturt on Tuesdays. So if you want to see me in person, I'm all over the place. You can also book a phone appointment or a MS Teams appointment. You might also hear from me when you're not expecting to. One of those occasions might be if one of your teachers is concerned about you. So if your behaviour changes or you disclose that you're facing something really challenging, Karen or any of the team might say, look, I'd really recommend maybe that Mel get in touch with you. So if I contact you and say, Karen recommended I connect with you, don't be surprised. It's just because they're worried about you. Another time you're going to hear from me is in about 3 weeks. You're going to get a text message that says, how's life going at Flinders? Reply for support. If you have any questions whatsoever, reply to that text. There's just 3 advisors for the whole uni, so it might take us a day or 2 to get back to you, but we will get back to you. If you have any questions whatsoever, just reply to that text message and we will be in touch to see how we can support you. Any questions? No? No? Okay. Have a great semester. Welcome. Enjoy. Make lots of friends. If in doubt, ask. Thanks.
Thank you, Mel.
Okay, I'll just log myself off.
Just to add to what Mel said about access plans. So what that means is if you have an access plan that's been discussed and formulated speaking with a disability advisor, that means you may, depending on the particular condition or disability that you have, they may recommend, for example, that you have the ability to ask for slightly longer extensions, or that you may have longer time in an exam, in a written exam, for example. So if you have an access plan, the important thing is that you provide that access plan to your topic coordinators so that they're aware of that. So it's a confidential piece of information, but clearly your topic coordinators need to know what provisions have been suggested to assist you and support you. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through some information about the inquiry-based learning approach. So please do feel free to ask questions as we go, but there's quite a bit of information to talk to you about, but you will actually be putting this in practice then later this afternoon. So that will help to make the process a lot clearer as well. So I'm quite an enthusiast of EBL. When I originally did my audiology course, there was no EBL at that time. It was very much didactic. Yes, yep. Yep, if the red light's on, which you can see here, that means it's being recorded. Yeah, we will do. So when I came to Flinders, that was the first time I learned about EBL. That is many years ago now, but I have been an EBL tutor on and off at that time. And at the moment, you actually won't see a huge amount of me in your first year or two, if you're part-time, as I teach mainly into the second year of the course. And currently I'm actually tutoring EBL in the second year of the course, and because the students are very independent and have been doing this the whole of last year, we have 3 groups. We do have 26 students in second year, and I'm moving between all 3 groups. So they just have me as a one tutor. So a lot of the time they're working quite independently. So, firstly, some of the key features of EBL. So it is group learning. You do have a tutor or a facilitator, we prefer to call the staff member, and it's very much student-centred. So we talk about adult learning within this context of EBL, and it is very relevant because it's within a clinical case context. So right from the start, you're learning to think as you would, work through your clinical reasoning as you would as a fully qualified audiologist in a clinical setting, as they do every day of their working life. So it's also quite integrated. So the learning that you have in the other topics also feed into what you're learning in EBL. So the EBL itself looks at not only the knowledge or the information, the background, but it also looks at the clinical techniques that are used, the technology, and the professional skills that are important in clinical settings. So the cases are actually written specifically to promote learning in particular areas. So the case writers also create learning objectives for that particular case. So you don't see those straight away, but that's what the case writer is aiming for you to work through and achieve those particular learning outcomes by doing that case, working through that case. So many of our cases that we use in EBL are in fact based on a real life scenarios, real life cases. So there are various definitions of EBL, but the emphasis is on the learning. So rather than teaching, we're talking about learning, and the learning that results from working through the process of looking at a real life case. So sometimes you might hear the term case-based learning. Problem-based learning is what we used to call it here at Flinders. So there are slight variations. I think some of you might have experienced something called team-based learning. If you've been here at Flinders, I think that's used in some areas. So there are slight variations on it. But in all of these, it's the case that comes first in the learning process. So you start with the case rather than a more traditional approach that you may have experienced, where you get some theoretical knowledge and you get some examples of cases explained to you. So briefly, where did EBL come from? So there were various early attempts at this, but I think the main one to speak of was at McMaster University in Canada back in the 1960s, where their whole medical program became an EBL or PBL, as they called it, program. And this was because the academics there noticed that students weren't really getting engaged with the material and the learning in their course. So they designed this to really engage and motivate, stimulate students in the learning process. So this then spread to various countries, including here in Australia, and the Flinders graduate medical program here adopted this method, although they have, because of their very large increase in student numbers, they've moved away from exactly the same approach that we are still using in audiology. So the Master of Audiology here at Flinders began in 1998, and from the very beginning, this EBL approach was used. So it has been used quite widely across courses, particularly health-related courses. We find that in the Master of Speech Pathology at Flinders, they use problem-based or EBL, inquiry-based learning. Optometry have at one stage, I think perhaps they've moved a little away from that now as well, but you will find there are other courses that use this approach, particularly in the area of health. So what is it? What do I mean by EBL? What do I mean by the process? It is a repetitive process, an iterative process. It means that you're following certain tasks over and over to facilitate your learning. And I've illustrated these here. So you're identifying key information. So, for example, you might be given a case and you have a man that's 72 years old, and that's a piece of key information. So you might then hypothesize that perhaps that individual has a hearing loss. But there are still many things that you don't know. So you might, for example, in order to support or exclude that hypothesis, you might want to look into, for example, age-related hearing loss. So you set that then as a learning issue, something you need to find out more about. So here we become the investigate. You go away and you research and find evidence for that learning issue. And then you bring back that information to your group for discussion and comparing with what other people have found and applying that then to the case, combining, summarising that information and applying it to the case at hand. And so the process then is repeated as you move through the case. So we're just going to have a look at this picture, which may help you to understand this process or illustrate what's happening. So I get you all to have a look at the picture. For a few seconds and start thinking about what can you see in the picture. So we're thinking about what information do we have here. So you might like to jot something down, but if anyone wants to make a suggestion, then please do. Yeah, Simone?
Someone's underwater. First of all, I thought maybe they're brilliant, and then I thought perhaps they're doing a handstand.
Okay. So someone's in the water. Yeah. Anyone else? Comment on anything else? Yes?
I don't want to go to the negative side of things. It's kind of unclear exactly what's happening. It looks like they've fallen or possibly jumped, but perhaps they could also be drowning.
Okay. So again, we see that someone's in the water. That's what we can see, physically see. Anything else that you can see? What can you see in the picture? Stairs. Yep. Yeah, yep. Like a rail, yeah, as you say, on the steps down into the pool. Yeah. Yeah, we can see that there's water on the edge here.
It looks like a public pool next to a park.
Okay, we can see some green up there, which looks like grass. Yeah, and a fence. Yep. Did you have someone over here had something else? Yeah.
Upside down. They fall upside down.
Yeah.
To the back like that.
Okay, yeah. So you can only see their feet. Yeah, that's what we can see.
Probably drowning.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Perhaps they were trying to jump in, but they jumped in very close. Maybe they slipped right where there was water, and they didn't quite jump far away enough.
Okay.
So they could be diving.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
You can't see the water, so you can assume that they're right. So you can't actually see. There might be loads of other people.
Yeah, yeah. So there we need to differentiate between what information we can actually see, what's our key info, and some of the suggestions you've made are, rather than physically what we can see in the picture, are what you're inferring, yeah, or potentially your hypotheses. Okay. So that's where we need to see the distinction. There are different types, also different types of information. So, but some of you've mentioned the very obvious, the physical. We can also see the side of the pool is wet, as someone mentioned. We could also see, I think it looks like the sun is out on the grass, for example. We can also see someone is in the water. But we don't know, it's not actually clear if, as you suggested, they might be doing a handstand, they might have fallen in. Yes, but we can't tell that from just looking at the picture. So the inferences are a lot of what we're doing as well. So as part of the process, we want to make inferences, but we want to distinguish the one from the information that we can actually see or actually read on the page. So if we were to suggest that someone might have fallen in, what sort of information might we want to find out in order to try and support or refute our hypothesis? What sort of information might we want to find out? Are they alone? Yeah. Well, what sort of information might we be able to go away and research if we wanted to know if they'd possibly fallen in? So possibly slipped on the edge of the pool. What can you see about the edge of the pool? What do you think it's made of? What is it? Concrete? Looks like concrete. Yeah, yeah. So do we know, for example, is wet concrete slippery? So we may not know that. So that might, in this instance, this example, become our learning issue. Is wet concrete slippery? So do we have evidence then, if it is, for example, it could be more likely that they did slip in? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Could be. We will never know. Yes. Yeah, so that would be something in what you might consider your need to knows if you're working through a case. And then you find some of those may feed into a learning issue, but others it might be that in the next page, next disclosure of the case, you find out more about that person in terms of their physical ability. And then you may be able to go back to your hypotheses and think, well, yes, this would support the hypothesis, etc., this particular hypothesis. Or something else that people have suggested, someone might have been overindulged with alcohol and they might have fallen in because of that. That's another hypothesis. Okay. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the thought processes. So in terms of the principles behind EBL, we talk about the activation of prior knowledge, contextual learning, and elaboration. So what do we mean by this? So activation of prior knowledge. The case itself, the information in the case, will trigger previous knowledge. So that might be, many of you have different backgrounds, different life experiences, and just starting the case will also trigger your knowledge and your life experiences that may be aligned in some way with that case. But also, as you move through the course, learning, it's not a linear process of learning within the course. You'll come across cases down the track, next semester, next year, that then again trigger knowledge that you've gained in this semester. And we do have what we call, and this is a spiral curriculum, that is, once you've learned something, it will reoccur. You'll be reusing that material, you'll be coming back and then increasing your knowledge or extending your knowledge in that particular area or topic. So there's discussion within the EBL at many different levels and from many different perspectives. And this will throw up further questions. So the aim is that although you're using prior knowledge, you're also then revealing what else do we need to know, what else do we need to learn. And with the motivation then, wow, this is interesting. How do we find out? Let's go away and find out more about this particular question or area. So we also need to be clear that the group, the EBL group, can't just rely on particular experts on a topic. Although I said earlier this morning, we value the fact that people come from different backgrounds and have knowledge in a range of different areas, and also many of you in this group have some life experience with hearing loss. So although you bring valuable insights and information to the group, it's also important that ultimately the information, the facts that you gather have a strong evidence behind them. So it's not enough to say, so-and-so in the group said da-da-da-da-da, so now this is fact. and this is my source of information. So we need to back that up with the available evidence through our research, through our use of resources, and often peer-reviewed research articles, for example, are very valuable sources of evidence. And it is important, and you may struggle at times with the understanding or the moving through the case, but this is part of the process. This is what really will, in generating your own knowledge, new material, synthesising and applying this information and knowledge, this will really help you to learn in a much deeper way. So even if some of you have a strong background in a particular area, just be wary of being or providing overly much information or setting yourself up as the expert in the group. Think about backing off a little, ensuring that other people are also engaging and not just looking to you for answers. So you may also find, though, even if you are an expert in a particular area, at certain points in a session, your experience and your ability to explain the knowledge that you have will be very, very valuable as well. When we talk about contextual learning, so this means because we're looking at a case rather than just pieces of information, because it's based within the context of a clinical context, that this enables you to learn in a fashion that's exactly the way, as I mentioned earlier, that you'll be interacting in clinic and working in clinical settings. So don't see the clinical case that you have as a problem to be solved as such. It's more a vehicle for learning. So a trigger for recalling what you've learnt previously, a trigger to inquire more deeply into the area, and a context for later recall. We've often had graduates who graduated many years ago, and they'll come up to me at a conference and we might be talking about something, and then, they explain, yes, I was in this clinical situation and I remembered, and they give me the name of the EBAL case that they did, and that triggered that recall as well. So when we talk about elaboration, we mean there's both internal and external processes. Internally, you're building on your past understanding, conceptualizing, reconstructing the information for yourself, but also there's that external part of this in explaining, justifying your views or the information that you found, illustrating, providing examples, clarifying what you mean when you say such and such. So this is all part of that process. So particularly explaining to others is really a key way of confirming or finding out how well you do actually understand something. So this is also part of that EBL process when you're bringing information back to the group. Okay, so this just reinforces the lifelong learning that I've spoken about earlier as well, the fact that adults bring that experience to the new learning experience, but then there's that deciding what further knowledge do we need, what they need to learn now. So determining one's own learning needs and being proactive in finding the information in order to achieve that deeper learning is part of this process. And this is what we always talk about in professional life, health professional life, the need for lifelong learning. We never stop learning. And this is part of the process that you use in EBL is something that will continue throughout your professional life. So it's important to develop this skill. So in audiology, for example, things are constantly changing. Technology, as you'll find out through some of your sessions, has changed, advanced at alarming speed in terms of hearing devices, hearing aids, fitting technology, cochlear implant technology. So this is something that we all need to be keeping apace with, keeping and constantly learning and updating our knowledge.
From an industry perspective, do you think everything will be very different, say, 5 years from now, or I guess leading on from what you were already saying?
Yes, it depends on particular areas. I mean, at times I think particularly in hearing aid technology, we thought things would plateau, but things have constantly increased in sophistication in terms of the technology. Artificial intelligence is also now playing a role. There are, in terms of the way audiologists work, I mean, that has an impact. It also has an impact on the quality of the hearing devices and the outcomes that can be achieved for their clients. There are moves afoot now. It has been approved that audiology will become a regulated profession. So this won't actually be enacted until around 2030, but the process is starting now. So we're not entirely sure what will happen there in terms of the way the audiology courses roll. Currently there's an internship that once you finish the course here, you can, or you really need to, in order to become a full member with a accredited audiologist, as we call it, of Audiology Australia, then you undertake a full-time equivalent 12-month internship. So it's possible that that process may change under registration, but that's yet to be determined. Yeah. Oops. So as learners in this EBL group, it's important that you do own that group process. So the group defines the group learning issues based on the needs of that particular group. So in your case, because there are over 30 of you, we will be having 4 EBL groups. And so each group is working through a similar case, but each group may have slightly different learning issues that are raised during the case. Although ultimate aim is that you will all cover the knowledge that the case writer has set in their learning objectives for that case. So important part is seeking and engaging with the resources in order to address the learning issues that your group decides on. And then the reporting back. So this involves not just providing facts and collecting facts, but also discussing, clarifying amongst one another, or asking questions It's I guess like often a brainstorming in the sense that we want you to be asking questions, we want you to be discussing, and we want you to be expressing your own ideas. So you're using that information that you bring back to further understand the case that you're working on and to build your knowledge of audiology as well as other professional issues that are relevant to that case. So, yeah, we talk about this as being active learners to foster lifelong learning. So you're gaining not only skills in audiology, in knowledge of audiology, but in communication, also time management and group skills and teamwork, very importantly. So it's very much the learning is your responsibility as students. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a tutor or a facilitator in the groups, but their role is not to teach you. Their role is to give some prompts to ensure, particularly in the early stages, that you're following that EBL process. So they'll sit very much usually in the background. They may assist the group if there are issues or difficulties that are presenting in the group that need some assistance to resolve. But it is really up to the students in the group to drive that learning as much as possible. So we can distinguish between learning issues and learning objectives. So the learning issues are those learning points that or questions that you generate yourselves by the end of each tutorial. So these are the issues that you're going to go away and find information about, find answers to, through collecting evidence. And learning objectives. These are what the case writer has set as learning objectives that are desirable or required for that particular case. So these will only be revealed to you at the end of the case, or even initially in first year, usually after you've had a case review. So therefore you can then look at those learning objectives yourself, and the idea is that you'll decide how well have I myself addressed this learning issue or these learning issues. And this helps you as well to know, okay, I don't feel that I covered this sufficiently in the learning. I don't have enough understanding of this particular learning objective. So that gives me the incentive then to look into that myself further. So the actual learning objectives cover the course, the case content. So it may be as a group you've looked at other areas, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The tutor also initially will help to keep you on track if you look like you're straying way off on a tangent. The facilitator, the tutor's there to help guide you back towards the set learning objectives. So most cases will have 3 tutorials. So if you're starting with a case 1, there will be a tutorial on a Tuesday. And then on the following Friday, there'll be the second tut. And then from week 2 onwards, you'll finish one case and start the next case on the Tuesday. And then you have your second tutorial of case 2 the following Friday, and then so on. So in each tutorial, so in tutorial 1, the very first one, you have some information provided and you decide as the group, so what's the key information that we can take out of this particular disclosure? And what are our hypotheses based on the information we have? Can we generate hypotheses, and what do we need to know? So some of those need to knows may be things then that turn into learning issues, things that you can go away and research. So that's where we have the independent study and research of these learning issues. Then you bring that information back. Now, commonly, most groups everyone in the group tends to research each of the learning issues, but in some cases, if you have many, potentially you might split them up between your group members. Okay, so you bring that and discuss this knowledge and put it together in a document. And then you move on with the case. So you'll have another disclosure. You'll decide what's the key information. You'll look at need to knows and hypotheses. And then you generate more learning issues. And so the process goes on. And in the final tutorial, or after the final tutorial, then the LOs for that case will be revealed. So this again is just talking about the independent study between tutorials. Important, as I also mentioned earlier this morning, on looking for reliable sources of information. In many cases, in the first instance, often the textbooks, when you're starting in audiology, the textbooks are good sources of information. As you move on and progress through the course, then the peer-reviewed journals and research articles are valuable. So we do provide you with a list of possible references that you can use, so you're not left completely without any starting point. But use those as a starting point, and you will often find there are other good sources of information that you're searching will turn up. So also part of the process of working and researching those learning issues is thinking about how can I present this information? How can I best present this to my group? It might be, you might think about a table in some instances, but rather than simply cutting and pasting out of what you might find, think about how do I summarise this? How do I put this in my own words so that I know that I understand it and I can explain it to the group as well? So part of that independent study is thinking about how do I best present this information to the rest of my group. So we've said there, 3 hours. I think I'm not tall enough to keep the light on. 3 hours would be a good time, possibly longer when you start off. There we go. So this is where, as well, I guess, as Mel was saying, planning in your study time would be important so that you are not preferably staying up to midnight the night before your tutorial to try and put some information together. So at a subsequent tutorial, what happens first is that there is also a recap. So someone, often the chair of the group, will provide a summary of what's happened before in the case to remind everyone and bring you back into the context. But sometimes we forget to then, we generate a lot of information and summarise that, but then forget to actually apply that back to the case that we're working on. So that's an important part of it as well. So the learning objectives I spoke about and what we call the student learning evaluation, this serves additional purposes other than for you to see how well you feel that you've met and or your group has met those learning objectives. It also allows you to give feedback to us about the particular case. So every year we look through the cases, we review, sometimes modify, sometimes change more than at other times. But a lot of that's based on comments or feedback that you've given about potentially what you found worked well or what you found was more difficult in that particular case. So we do take note very seriously of your feedback. So I've really talked about the role of the tutor already. You will find as well in audiology, we have two very experienced tutors who are not audiologists, but they have many years of experience, both tutoring in the medical program and in audiology. So this can be more of an advantage because they're not supplying, although they know a fair bit about audiology now, they're not teaching you, they're not providing you with information, they're just guiding you. They have the learning objectives, they have a tutor guide, as we call it, which helps them also in terms of what sort of question or prompting questions they might ask you, in addition to the discussion questions that you're given in the case. And they really want to ensure that everyone is engaged, that everyone's participating. And if some members of the group are having more difficulty doing that than others, that they can provide assistance or suggestions. So it's really important to maintain that respect between members of the group, but also to support one another to be actively involved. And the chair. So we have different roles of students within the group. So there's a chair and there's a scribe. So the chair of the group, and this would normally rotate, so you in your own groups would have a roster that you set up and you decide, okay, we'll go around the group or we'll go in this order, your chair this week, someone else's scribe, and so on. So the tasks of the chair, and this can be quite a challenging task, but a very important task. So ensuring that process is followed, that we talked about, encouraging everyone to contribute, as well as summarising and maybe paraphrasing some of the information. Also asking questions and prompting that good depth of discussion. So you have plenty of time for the tutorials. So there's no need to rush and think, oh, we have to move on to the next question. But also there's that element of time management, because initially you will have the 3 hours for each tutorial session. So the scribe is the person that's collating the information that's gathered. So this might be structured. We're starting to use just what's called OneNote which some of you may be familiar with, which is an online, a little bit like, it's a university app, but it's a little bit like Google Docs. So the scribe will put in the key information, put in your hypotheses, put in your needs to know, and also summarise then the reporting back. So they may also need to clarify, they may also need to ask questions to make sure they're getting the information accurately. And they may be involved in the structuring of it, drawing a diagram potentially. Unfortunately, in some respects, the days of the whiteboard are numbered, but in the early days when I started EBL, we had students who would come in early to the tutorial and draw the most amazing diagrams of ear function, ear features, and so on. These days, that would be great as well if anyone ventures and tries to do that, but more often than not, we're looking at diagrams or figures that are taken from electronic sources. Yep, so we've talked about this. So you'll all be setting up a document that's shared with the group members. Okay. So as well as the actual EBL tutorials, there will be some online content recordings as well, and the review workshops that I mentioned. So Eloise will be doing those with you this semester. Where it's an opportunity. This is something we introduced for the first time last year, where there's some opportunity to debrief about the case in the larger group and look at any learning objectives that were perhaps less well understood across the groups. So why do we do EBL? Well, it is really hard work, and often you'll probably hear our second year say it's really hard work, but it is fun. It means you do integrate a lot of different areas across the discipline. So it's not purely about didactic knowledge and information. And it really works to deepen your learning experience. You're taking charge of your learning, and not to underestimate the ability to work in a group, to work with a team. We're very fortunate that we still have quite small cohorts of students doing the Master of Audiology. I think you'll be the largest to date, with probably around 30 or just over 30 of you. Yes, hopefully. It may be something that we have to fight for, but the current staff are certainly proponents of EBL and really find it's a very valuable form of learning. And many graduates that you talk to will also say, no, perhaps at the beginning they weren't so sure, but then as they move through the course, they really learn to enjoy and to love EBL as a way of learning. And don't underestimate those professional skills that you're learning as well, to work with other people, to work and understand clients and the difficulties they may face that are not related to audiology, for example. So what we find, and there is it's probably a difficult area to research, but some of the research will show that there's increased retention of knowledge over years. And that learning in context that we talk about facilitates the recall. So if you're in a clinical setting down the track and you think, oh, I remember what happened in such and such, that will help you in applying that knowledge in the appropriate context. You're learning those self-directed learning skills and integrating that knowledge from different areas. This lifelong learning attitude as well, we're building on that idea, and we're building on your ability to work in a team. And there's also evidence of higher student satisfaction as well as staff satisfaction with the way in which the motivation, the engagement of students is evident. And we've also had over the years many employers. Now our students, our graduates are scattered across the world, across Australia. We have graduates that have been employed in every state of Australia, and we do get feedback from employers that our students are faster at engaging in that clinical context, in that clinical reasoning within their clinics when they begin their internships. So these question mark perceived problems, these are some of the comments that perhaps you might think of or you might hear. It seems to be inefficient and time consuming. But we could answer, and these were some of the questions that my former colleague, Sarosh Kapadia, collected. And he suggested, well, good wine takes time to mature. So be assured this will get better, even if you feel a little frustrated at the beginning. So you might think, well, I don't know what I don't know. But a lot of our life experiences are a bit like that. I don't know how much depth is needed. That's partly something up to you, but there is guidance from any lecture materials and also from your facilitators in the groups. It's the blind leading the blind. Okay, so ultimately you're not relying on the opinions or experiences of each other as much as you are on the evidence that you reveal in reliable sources. So it's true to say it's not a linear process. It's not building knowledge sequentially as such. But this poem, again, this was a poem that my colleague Sarosh found in response to, well, we're just going around in circles, or perhaps we are if we think of the spiral curriculum. So we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. So you may want to come back to that at the end of the course and thinking about, well, actually, yes, this is true. We've moved through all this knowledge, we come back and we see it differently. Now, I think that's all. So any other questions before you have time for a little break before Eloise is going to come down?
Okay.